Morning, everybody. Real Entrepreneurs TV, successful former 9-to-5ers. Emil Hurst Jr. here with another excellent episode. I'm so excited about our guest today. So if you are a woman in a male-dominated industry and you are in a position where you need negotiation skills, you need to sharpen up on your sales skills, this is the episode for you right now, okay? So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Jacqueline Twillie.
Thanks, Emil.
How you doing during this quarantine COVID time?
I am hanging in there, staying positive.
Yeah, definitely. So, successful former 9-to-5ers, Real Entrepreneurs TV. Our audience is current and aspiring entrepreneurs. So, would you like to talk a little bit about your entrepreneur journey? So, how did you even get started in entrepreneurship, and what does your business look like today?
Yeah, so my current company, Zero Gap, focuses on women leaders in male-dominated industries. We're a training and development firm. But my first company, I started when I was a kid. Just like a lot of people from Louisiana, my mom has a hair shop, so I used to sell snacks. So I would get money for my birthday or different little things. We would go to the store, I would get snacks, set it up in the shop and sell it. And when I went to college, I would braid hair because I knew how to braid from being in a hair shop all of my life. Okay. That was my second business. When I graduated from college, I started my third business, which was my first official business, where this is back in the day when you had to go to the Secretary of State office to file for your paperwork and then wait for them to mail you the paperwork.
Okay.
That was a marketing company. So my bachelor's degree is in marketing. I had to shut that business down because I also had just received a master's degree and I started working for a Fortune 100 company, a brand that we all know. And during my hiring process, I didn't mention that I had a business. But when I started and I was going through my training, it was a 3-month training, they asked if you have any businesses, and I disclosed it. And they looked at my business, checked out my website, and they determined it was a conflict of interest. So I had to shut my first business down, and I shut that down. So several years later, Zero Gap was born out of my relationship with people, teaching them how to navigate the career world. And so that was the impetus for this current business.
That's good. So your story is a lot like mine. So guys came to play basketball in front of my house. I sold Capri Suns and candy. I sold sandwiches and CDs in high school. So with that being said, do you think entrepreneurs are the nature versus nurture example? You think entrepreneurs are born or are they created?
I think some people are born as entrepreneurs, but I believe in the growth mindset, meaning that you can learn if you want to. So if you aren't born with this, a skill that can be learned, but it definitely requires grit. And I think that grittiness is something that you either have it or you don't.
Yeah, I agree. So what does your business look like normally day to day, and how has it pivoted to now during this quarantine COVID situation?
Yeah, so typically day to day, what the company looks like is we're servicing our executive coaching clients. So we work with mid-level career women to emerging executive. So we do a lot of coaching. Clients come to our downtown Dallas office, or they meet with us virtually. So the great thing is our business model already had a very strong virtual component, so it was easy to start pivoting. We also host weekly leadership development training seminars in our Dallas office, and I travel a lot to clients and I speak at conferences a lot. So in terms of this current environment, my calendar was booked from the beginning of March to the end of April, full travel every single week. Of course, all of that got shut down.
Yeah.
Which was a definite impact to the revenue, like instant, like within hours, everything just canceled.
Wow.
So what it looks like now is a lot of video conferencing, I try to do video, even if it's a phone call. I'm still fully dressed. My hair is done. I got heels on, even though you can't see me. And it's establishing a new routine, but also I think the biggest part of the new environment is mindset, which was important before, but it's even more important now where you live and work in the same space.
Right. And what about mindset is important that you learn? I think that's good.
Well, every day is a new challenge in this new environment.
Yes.
Because it's not just my business that's impacted, it's everybody's business is impacted. Mm-hmm. So the mindset is going back to a growth mindset. I read this book a few years ago, and it's titled Mindset. It's by a psychologist, Carol Dweck. And she says you either have a fixed mindset or a growth mindset. A fixed mindset, you say this is a challenge. You say this is a challenge. Okay, what can I learn from this, and how can I overcome this challenge? Yeah. So for me, it's all about going into, okay, I got some challenges today. How am I going to solve it? And on top of that, what am I grateful for? Because thank God, I have a business where I can move to online.
Mm-hmm. That's absolutely true. So, throughout your entrepreneurship journey, tell us about that moment, the job that you landed where you had to get rid of your business. Before you actually left that job, what was that experience like? Before you jumped and went full time into where you are now, what were the feelings leading up to that, and what was that experience like once you actually cut cord and went full time entrepreneurship?
Yeah, so the company that I was working for when I had to shut down my first business, they went through a round of layoffs 2 years after I worked for them. Okay. So I took a package and I left, and I was extremely blessed because I got a 401k match. I was vested in my pension, and I had the package. I felt like it was a blessing.
Yeah. And how long were you there to build up that nest egg?
Just over 2 years. Okay. But here's the thing, I was super young. I was in my early 20s, and with compound interest, if you save a little bit when you're 20, that turns into a balloon, right? Okay. But fast forward, I ended up working another job that I did not like. It wasn't my cup of tea. Second job was emphasis for my first selling book. And then the job that I had before I started this company, I was working in global health. Okay. At the Center for Disease Control. Okay. In program operations.
All of this is in Dallas right now?
No, this is in Atlanta. So my first part of my career was all in Atlanta. Okay. So when I was working in global health, I the way that I bridged out, you asked about my feelings. I felt completely at peace because I had been praying. I had been on a spiritual journey for 3 years. God, what is my purpose? What am I here for? Because I was excelling in my 9-to-5s, but something was missing. So through the course of me writing my first book, and I got a lot of opportunities to speak, I landed a major client, and they came to me. And so I kept saying, God, I need a sign. Should I start my own business? And I was walking to my mailbox. I'll never forget. God was like, how many more signs do you need? Right. You never thought about writing a book. You got a best-selling book. People coming out the wazoo saying, oh, can you come give a talk at our organization for 20 minutes? We can only pay you XYZ thousands of dollars. And it's like literally down the street from where I live. Right. It was surreal. When I left my job, I remember the feeling. I felt complete peace. I wasn't nervous. I wasn't excited. I didn't have any anxiety. I just felt so peaceful that I knew I was doing the right thing.
That's good. And another.
But let me back up though, Emil, because I think this is important for people to know. I didn't just quit my job. I had contracts. I had major contracts with organizations across the U.S. and I had clients, and I had already been, when I started feeling that bug that I was going to leave, I started investing in software. I would use my paycheck. I would buy equipment. I would go to conferences. I would pay for association fees. I paid my rent up. Like, I didn't just leave. I had a full plan.
So is that your recommendation to your clients right now? So if my fiance or my daughter was, my mother was a client of yours, and they are in that corporate 9-to-5 space, Do you recommend having a plan first, or just follow your passion, follow what you feel your purpose is?
Well, you got to pay bills, right?
Yeah.
And so if your passion and your fire is not generating enough money to bring in revenue, then you got to figure out where are you going to live and how are you going to eat? Because you can't grow a business if you're stressed out about bringing money in.
That's true.
And also, so with my clients, I help them ascend in corporate ranks. I do work with some people one-on-one if they want to do what I do, like left successfully. I'll work with them one-on-one, but I tell people I had $30,000 saved on top of everything that I had put into the business. And I thought, and I had revenue coming in, I thought that was plenty money. That is not a lot of money to operate a business. And so when I hear people saying, oh, I have like $5,000, it really causes me to pray for them more because $5,000 ain't going nowhere. And the other thing that you do that I recommend for people to do is you got to change your lifestyle. You cannot go to birthday parties. You can't go out to eat. There's no brunching. I mean, here and there, but you can't do it like you were doing when you had a steady every 2-week paycheck because as an entrepreneur, until you really see the full cycle of your business, you don't know what seasons are high and low. And I remember my first year of business, there was 45 days where I had no revenue, which was very scary. But I learned now that I'm 5 years in, I know I have cycles. So now that I've been like that second year, I knew the highs and the lows. So I started finding ways to generate revenue when in traditional slow times. So I have those cycles anymore where over a month has gone by and ain't no money coming in, but you still living, so money is going out.
Yep, absolutely. I think that's phenomenal advice. Real Entrepreneurs TV. We have Jacqueline Twillie here, and our purpose is to educate, empower, and inspire current and aspiring entrepreneurs, right? So kind of educate our audience on what did you learn from the beginning to where you are now about, you explained about your 45-day cycle, about the back end, your finances and bookkeeping in your business. What's something that you know now that you didn't know when you first started?
Well, I'd done a lot of research before I got started. And now it's so easy because there's so many software things out there. I would say what I didn't understand then is the buying cycle of my client, right? Okay. So for professional development and coaching, between Thanksgiving to New Year's Eve, it's dead. And that's because people focus on the holidays. They're thinking about New Year, New Me, boom, things are back up and going.
Yeah.
So, but I didn't even think to understand that. What I would do now is I would have probably interviewed more people to find out things like, okay, when is career development important to you? And how much would you spend to work with someone in career development? Because my prices were all over the place in the beginning. You know, if people weren't buying it, I would drop it and it was too cheap. And then I would get busy again and then I would raise it too high. I wasn't consistent. Now my prices are my prices. They may increase like once a year if the services change, if we're adding enhanced features, but I didn't know how to articulate my value, which is kind of interesting because that's what I teach people to do when I teach them how to negotiate. But that was a lesson that I learned probably within my first 6 months of business.
Okay, that's good. So your recommendation to that college senior right now that's aspiring to be an entrepreneur, how do you recommend that they kind of, or what would be the process to learn that as early as possible about their consumers? Are there any tools or best practices that they can implement now while it's early that they can find out the behaviors of their consumers?
Yeah, so the great thing is the internet has so much available information for you. So you can do some Google searches, but in addition to that, YouTube is one of my favorite universities. You can learn anything on YouTube. You can learn a lot about your consumers on YouTube. But if this was a high school senior who's about to be an entrepreneur, I would tell them two things. You need to talk to as many people as possible and keep notes. Ask all of your target customers the same question. Everybody is not your customer. And that's great. You don't want everybody to be your customer. So start asking people, I would say 5 standard questions, keep it short and sweet, and then look at those answers over time. And if what you want to sell, if that's not what people want, listen to the people. Switch it up and give them what they want.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's great advice. So, author and entrepreneur, tell us about your books that you have available right now.
Yes. So I have 2 books that are out right now. So the first book is Navigating the Career Jungle. Okay. And it's a guide for young professionals. And my second book is Don't Leave Money on the Table, Negotiation Strategies for Women. So this first book is really, what is it like to work in a 9-to-5? Because we have one perception of what we see on TV, which isn't reality. And one of the big things that people take away from this first book is the game of networking. People say network, but they don't tell you how. So I break down step by step how to build mutually beneficial relationships. And that's one of the things that people love about Navigating the Career Jungle. Now, in the second book, Don't Leave Money on the Table, I break down the negotiation game. So I have a framework that my company teaches. It has 5 steps. We go in detail in the book about how to set yourself up for success in negotiation. So I consider this like a pre-flight checklist. You know how when you get on a plane, a pilot, they're always going to go through their checklist to ensure the smoothest flight possible. In my book, the latte method, I love coffee, right? The latte method, it teaches you how to have the smoothest negotiation possible. So I want to give you quickly the 5 steps. Look at the details, anticipate the challenges, think about your walk away point, talk it through, and evaluate the options. So in the book, I go in detail.
I think that's excellent. So for that person, when you mention networking, so I know when people, or if I read in books, they say to build your business, you have to network, and I naturally like to talk to people. So, but how do you suggest to make networking more methodical to where it's being used as a tool that can actually be tracked and measured to help you grow your network and grow your business?
So every business needs a CRM, a customer relationship manager. And there are so many free CRMs out there. So once you meet somebody, what typically happens, people will go out, oh, I met 10 people. Oh, I met such and such. Oh, you know who I met today? And we get so excited. And then there's no follow-up. 0. That's leaving money on the table. So what you do is you put it into your customer relationship software, your CRM. I also use LinkedIn like a CRM, but I do have a CRM that plugs into LinkedIn. Within 24 to 48 hours after I meet somebody, I'm connecting with them via email or on LinkedIn. And then I touch base with them once a year. So that's the system thing. And it's not about a sell. I don't walk into any networking event saying I'm going to leave with a customer. I know eventually I will get customers, but that's not my, today when I go into this networking thing, I'm going to sell this and that. It's all about, I want to walk away with a new friendship, a new relationship. And when I remember a few years ago, someone worked with me and she said, Jacqueline, your advice on networking is not working because I keep friends, but I'm not getting business. The next day I don't have to, and I told them you're doing right because nobody wants to be sold to. People say when you go to a networking event, some people go to sell, but nobody's going there to buy. They're just going to make a connection. Keep that in mind.
I think that's good. And you mentioned the word mutual, and I completely agree with that. Whatever networking space that we're in, we want to make sure that were adding value to the person that we're networking with. Are there some practical ways to where you can measure your value of what you can offer to another person, or is that something that's you're doing your own research and you have to figure it out before you choose what event you want to go to?
Yeah, so inside of the book, Navigating the Career Jungle, when I tell you I break down networking, I break it down.
Okay.
So in terms of when you go in there, you have to know who you are, right? And what you bring to the table. For me, I am an expert negotiator, and I am a master when it comes to creating curriculum for leadership development. So when I talk to somebody, when they say, what do you do? I don't say, oh, I'm the owner of Zero Gap. I tell them I'm a women's leadership expert and a negotiation strategist. And my response to them isn't, what do you do? I teach people when they're networking to present open-ended questions. We do this in negotiation as well. But to turn that question around and say, what are you passionate about? Because people get tired of saying, what do you do?
Right.
So if you ask somebody what they're passionate about, first of all, you make an impression because they're like, oh, nobody's asked me that. And they might not tell you what their 9 to 5 is, which is great. They might say, oh, you know, I'm building a garden with my family, or, you know, I'm passionate about sailing, or I'm passionate about crawfishing, or whatever it is. And so once you get that human to human connection, then you'll be like, oh, you know what? I love to sail too. I got a boat too. And now you have a connection. And that's what networking is about.
Okay, that's good. So make the connection. Don't make a sales pitch. Make sure you have a CRM. And what's an example of that? What CRM are you using right now?
Zoho.
Zoho, okay.
But Salesforce has great CRMs. HubSpot has a great ZOHO.
Good. We'll make sure we put that in the description. In our business, we actually use Podio for networking and for our sales.
Yeah, Podio is really nice too.
Good. So before we wrap up, so I am just in the role playing. I am the president of, you know, a Fortune 500 company. My sales are low. I need my sales team trained. You told us that you were an expert. What could be our expectations from our sales team after they're trained by you?
Yeah, so when I go into companies and I do company-wide trainings, the first step is for assessment. I just can't come in and start giving you solutions because I don't know what's going on. So I spend time with organizations to find out, how are you currently operating? What's your culture like? Are your values actually matching your actions? We have a method and an assessment at Zero Gap called AHA, Attitude, Habits, and Actions, because that drives everything. And then from that, what we do is, we have results where we help people increase their revenue hands down. So typically I'll get in the room with a leadership team. We have a whiteboard and we start walking through, you know, what are the things you're doing day to day? You have a best practice. Are you sharing that with Joe in the other department? Are you sharing that with Sharon? Do y'all know what you're doing? Oftentimes people have meetings and they're just going over goals, but they're not saying, this was really great. We should all do this. Or, you know what, I screwed up on this. You got to have a culture where people can talk about failure, because if not, if people are secretly failing, your company is secretly failing. So from that, then I can get in the weeds and I can start giving strategy. And I could say, okay, when you go into this negotiation, take this approach. And it also depends on your clients. Who are you selling to? Because the way one company sells to a client, that negotiation strategy is not going to work with a different client. So my trainings in person with a company, they're very, very hands-on and very customized to that organization.
Okay. That's fantastic. So your 2 books, Welcome to the Fire Round. I know you have your own 2 books. So
yeah,
if you had to choose one book, not one of your own, but if you had to choose one book, right, or recommend only one book to somebody, what would that one book be?
So as you can see in the background, I'm a bookworm. I'm on a quest in 2020 to read 220 books. But the one book that I would recommend, and I read a lot of books, is The Power of Focus.
Okay.
And this is by Jack Canfield, Mark Victor Hansen, and Les Hewitt. And the reason why I recommend this book is because it teaches you how to set goals, but how to make sure everything you're doing is intentional. Mm-hmm. Because you can set a great goal, but if your day-to-day actions are not in alignment with those goals, it's going to take a long time to get there. So The Power of Focus is definitely what I recommend.
And what's an example of how to make that focus intentional? Just to break that down a little bit further. So for the person that has been laid off or furloughed, so has a lot of time, I had a goal, how do I make my focus intentional to where I don't have to go back after this furlough, or I'll be okay after this layoff?
So, this is how you would tie in your intention to that goal. Mm-hmm. What do you need to do? You would need to write down a list of step by step. In order for me not to go back to work after this furlough, I need this, this, and this to happen. Mm-hmm. And then you look at those things and you break that down even further. Mm-hmm. And once you break that down even further, here's the part where you got to be really honest with yourself. What things do I have now that will help me do that? And what things do I need to gain to help me accomplish that? Because there's always a gap between what you have and what you need to gain. And once you identify that gap, you have to determine, how hungry am I to fill this gap? Mm-hmm. And also be realistic if it's going to take you time to do that. Because sometimes the goal might be, I don't want to go back to work after the furlough. But if you don't have enough savings, then how you going to eat?
Right.
That $1,200 stimulus, that's
not going to make it.
Boom, boom. That's out. So just be realistic with yourself. I think when it comes to entrepreneurship, you also need a bridge job. You need some bridge income if you don't already have income coming in. So, you got on the road Uber for a minute, mm-hmm. or I haven't went back to braiding hair, but I know if I needed to, I have that skill. If things got real, I can get behind somebody's head and bring in some cash. Don't let your ego get in the way of you growing your business. Do what you have to do to generate income in an honorable way while you're building your business. But keep in mind, if you're out chasing dollars, then you're going to be drained. Your energy's wiped out. You can't focus on your business. So it's all about understanding what you need to do, being honest with yourself, and giving yourself time to get there. Mm-hmm.
That's good. And for the person that is taking that leap during this time, right? So you mentioned that you built the system and you were at peace because you had that system, because you had that nest egg. What about support before you actually went full time? So for the person that has a spouse that really doesn't support that passion or support that business, what is your advice to the people that don't have support? It's easy for the ones that do, because Real Entrepreneurs TV is a no excuse zone. So how would you suggest somebody work through that if they don't have that support?
To be honest with you, Emil, I really can't speak to that because I haven't been put in that position. And I know theoretically I can say something, right, but I've never been there. So I can't tell you how I got through not having a supportive system. Mm-hmm. But I will say this, that what I know for sure is that if you ask for help, even if it's outside of your immediate circle, there are a lot of people who are willing to help you, and strangers will help you. Mm-hmm. So if you find yourself in between a rock and a hard place, try to identify someone that you can ask for help. And if they can't help you, ask somebody else, because you will get someone who can help assist you.
Mm-hmm. And what did your support system look like for you to make that transition from, the layoff to taking off on your entrepreneurship journey?
Yeah, so that first company, when they did layoffs, when I took a package to leave, I was in a very solid financial spot. So I wasn't hurting for nothing. Right. I mean, I was very good. I didn't have to change my lifestyle, mm-hmm, because I had savings and I had that package, right? So I was good. When I left my company, the one I was working with, to start Zero Gap, the main thing that my support network did for me is they came through. And I'll tell you exactly what I asked them. When I moved from Atlanta to Dallas, and I just moved because I like Dallas. There was no reason to move.
Uh-huh.
I emailed people and I said, I'm moving to Dallas. This is my company. If you could introduce me to one person that you know in Dallas, I would appreciate it. So for 30 days, I had 30 meetings. I had coffee meetings. And I would just go. It was a warm relationship because we had a mutual acquaintance. Remember when I told you about networking, it's about finding something interesting. So we could always start the conversation with, oh, well, how do you know Emil? Or how do you know Chuck? Or whatever, right? So I would start the conversation like that. We would both share our story. And then hands down, people would say, you know what? You need to meet such and such. And you need to meet such and such. But I've also asked my network, hey, can you help me with this? Can you help me with this graphic? You know somebody who do graphics? Can they give me a discount? But in the future, I will pay their full price. So when I was starting and my budget was tight, I would use my network for different resources. I was always straight up with people. And some people I paid full price up front, but later on, they would be like, you know what? I see you growing your business. You're really consistent. I'm going to do one for you right now. They would give me something. So I believe in paying people and I believe in getting paid. And so I've been very supportive of my network. And what I do now, and I challenge everybody watching this to do, when you have somebody who's starting a business, in my friend group, we do business showers, kind of like baby showers.
Okay.
So when you have somebody who's starting a business, they don't know what they don't know, because I didn't know what I didn't know. So we rally around them. Okay, somebody might not know about a CRM. Let's come together, the 10 of us in our friend group. It costs $1,500 for a CRM for the year. We all gonna put in money. We're gonna pay for your CRM for your first year. Oh, you got your business going, but you don't have an LLC. We got our money together. We're gonna pay that LLC for you. That's how we as Black people start supporting our fellow brothers and sisters to get into the game. It's not about sharing a post on Facebook or liking this or giving Instagram likes. It's about going behind the scenes. We all going to go in. Oh, you need equipment? The equipment, 10,000. I don't have 10,000, but together between 10 of us, we can give you 800. We can give you $1,000, whatever that is. And I love doing that for other people.
And I think that's phenomenal that you have that group, but there is a trade-off. So for the people in the audience that either want to start a group like that or a part of a group, what does the accountability look like for that person that you guys are investing into? Because I know it's not feasible to do it for anybody. So how does a person make sure that they are in a position, I don't want to use the word deserve, but definitely earn a reputation that they're going to be good stewards of that investment?
So here's the thing. It's no strings attached. But as an entrepreneur, I know that you go through highs and lows. You have challenges. So in terms of support, if you having a bad day, everybody in my circle, including myself, if somebody's having a bad day, it's a quick text. Y'all pray for me. Somebody on the phone, what you need? I got you. Or it can be, we have one girl in our group who, she went through something very public. We all knew that she went through something public. So what we decided to do was, all right, we got her address because that's our home girl. We just gonna send her groceries once a week. We're gonna send her flowers because it's how you run your business. You got to learn your own lessons. You have to make your mistakes, right? And it's not about us being a safety net so you don't make mistakes. It's about just being there and saying, keep going. And so how do you get into a circle like this? How people come into our circle? We met each other in different ways. But if we meet somebody interesting, and I met Uber drivers, people who were driving me in an Uber who said, yeah, I want to start this and that. Okay, cool. I got you. You know what? I'm going to invest in you. I'm going to give you this book. I'm going to buy you a ticket to a conference. I speak at a lot of events. If I meet somebody and they're my Uber driver and they tell me, oh, I want to do this, I'm speaking at a conference next week. I'm going to give you my free ticket. You are my VIP guest. And so if that person shows up and they follow up with me and they're like, Jacqueline, that was so good. Thank you so much. You know what? Now you come to dinner with me and my girls. Now, not only do you know me, now you know my network.
Right.
So and you don't have to have a long relationship with people. It's just about, when I go back to network, because I'm a networker, right? That's how I can network with my Uber driver and bring them to my conference as a VIP guest. But it's just about being true to yourself and going back to asking people for help. If you don't tell people what you want to do, no one can help you.
Right. I agree with that. So last question of the fire round, and thank you for that. So from where you are right now, right, if you lost everything today, what would you do to get back to where you are right now? If everything went south, you lost everything, went down to nothing, what would you do to get back to where you are now?
So I would first think about, what problem am I going to solve? The problem that you solve drives everything. So I would find a problem, I'm going to solve the problem, and then I would start going out to different places and I would start talking to people and say, this is the problem that I solved. And asking people open-ended questions. So, you know what? Let me back up, because the first thing I would do is I would pray.
Okay.
And once I pray, I feel like my steps will be ordered and I will be divinely guided to all of the other things.
Got it. So definitely faith, identifying what problem you can solve, and then promoting and propelling the people that have their problem and putting your service in front of them. That's how you will rebuild it, right?
Yep.
Got it. Well, this is excellent. Right now, you have a special promotion going on your products. You want to tell us about that?
Yes. So as a result of the COVID crisis, I know a lot of people are impacted from all industries. And during this time and a time of a slowdown in the economy, it's important to double down on your skills. People think professional development can go outside. But the people that you see thrive when the economy is slow are the people who continue to invest in themselves. So I've made all of my courses 50% off at zerogap.co and Jacqueline Twillie, so that everyone can get the professional development that they need during this time. I have a free podcast. I have a YouTube channel. So my goal right now, my intention is to help professionals to continue to enhance their skill set even during this time. So right now I'm putting out daily videos on LinkedIn, on Instagram, on YouTube, giving people 2-minute tips to help them to keep moving forward during this time. And it's not all about tactical skills. Some of it is just about recharging, because you can't pour from an empty cup. If you're burned out and you're exhausted, if you're stressed out, you can't do anything. So the courses are 50% off, but I'm also pumping out a ton of free content right now just to be that support and that backbone for people. And, you know, I will say this too, back to one of your earlier questions. If someone doesn't have a support system, you can go online and find a community.
Yep.
You can find a community online of people. I cannot tell you how many Facebook groups I'm in where people have shared deeply personal things that I'm like, oh my goodness, I can't believe that person shared that. But guess what? It'll have 100 comments. People like, you know what, I got you. You need this, and total strangers. So yeah, if somebody doesn't have a support system, I would say find an online group that you can get into.
That's great. That's great. And for the people that listen to this episode, if you subscribe and leave in the comments, you know, everything that you loved about this episode, you do enter into a contest for us to purchase both books that Jacqueline has available, and we'll ship them straight to you. So make sure you subscribe and comment on this episode. One more question, Jacqueline. So we know that your company is Zero Gap, but if networking, anybody in our audience, the gap of where you are now and where you want to be, what's some resources that maybe our audience can help you fill that gap?
I lost you on the last part of your question. Can you repeat that?
Yeah. So the question was, if there's a gap from where you are now in your business for where you would like to be, how can our audience help you fill that gap? Is there a resource that somebody in the audience can share with you to pour back into you to help you fill that gap of where you are versus where you're going or where you want to be?
Yes. So I'm so happy that you presented that question to me. I'm currently looking to bring on a COO for Zero Gap. So if you know someone who has a lot of experience in training and development, I'm looking for somebody with over 15 years of experience, and they can be based anywhere in the U.S. For time zone purposes, I would prefer they be in the U.S. instead of in a different country. Connect me with that person, because that's our immediate need, is to fill that role by September.
Okay, by September. And what is a CEO? What is a COO for your company? So we know it's a chief operating officer, so somebody to really manage day to day and drive those metrics and empower and lead the culture. But for your business, what does that ideal candidate look like to fit into your culture?
So the ideal candidate, yes. So the ideal candidate is someone who is very knowledgeable about the challenges that women face in male-dominated industries. This person will also be well-versed on leadership development in general. So we're looking for people who understand how to overcome challenges and who can successfully navigate this. We're also identifying this COO as a problem solver and someone who has a growth mindset. Going back to Carol Dweck in the book Mindset. And again, just being tech savvy, because if we haven't learned anything about COVID-19, we know that we all have to up our technology skills. Yes. So definitely someone who's comfortable using technology and being in a virtual environment.
I think that's awesome. Well, Jacqueline, thank you so much for your time. I know you have to run. We really appreciate it. How can people get in touch with you?
Yeah, so you can find me all over the internet, Jacqueline Twillie. LinkedIn is my favorite place to hang out, but you can also find me hanging out on Twitter from here and there. So if you connect with me, just mention that you saw me on this show, and whatever I can do to be a resource in your network, I will definitely do that, because we're all family now after this. Your community is my community, and vice versa.
Definitely. Thank you so much. Real Entrepreneur TV, and we'll see you guys later.